Hello and welcome to Bloke on the Range. I'm lucky enough to be hosted by the Seaforth Highlanders of Canada Museum today, and they thrust into my hands this Canadian FAL, in particular one a C1 rifle. Now I've already shown a British L1A1 version in a nice late plastic stock when I was down in Italy last year, and I thought it would be a nice opportunity to show the differences with the Canadian one. Now basically the FAL was a Belgian design. Adopted, it was NATO's AK practically. It was an awful lot of NATO countries adopted it. Some made various minor changes. The British Commonwealth made more major ones and rejigged it to be made in God's own units rather than this silly continental metric nonsense. So here we go. So generally it's very, very similar to the British one. On this side, the controls, you've got the folding charging handle, the big safety lever rather than the little nub of the metric ones, and the great big paddle there instead of the difficult to reach lever there of the metric ones. But you'll immediately see on the top we have a charger guide on the top cover. When you're out, the last round hold open is active on these, unlike the British ones, and you can put a 5-round charger in the top. Now actually some of the prototype ones in British service had a charger guide and this great big frame charger nonsense, but yeah, I mean apparently they were used with the chargers, but the actual utility of that, when you can take an empty magazine off and much more easily use, well, I mean if you're totally out and all you've got is your bandolier with stripper clips, then I'm sure you would, but if you had the opportunity to take it off and use the clip-on one, you almost certainly would. Moving back now, the rear sight is quite different, and if Rob could bring the camera in there. So what we've got here is a series of holes at varying heights on a dial, and we can just rotate this and get various range settings, which is quite interesting. Now the holes are quite small, and when you shoulder it, I suspect in low light that would be a little bit difficult, and if it's not quite indexed, you're going to be miles off. So if we drop the bolt now, there's something lacking. The British ones have diagonal sand cuts, which are supposedly to help give crap a path to get away, but this is absent on the Canadian one for some reason. And unlike the British ones, they didn't update the woodwork on these. Apparently the early ones didn't have the cooling holes, or later they were added. Now, because we are complete geeks on Bloke on the Range, we have, if Mike could pass me the other one, I just need to take that. We have a Cutaway model. This is brilliant. Now what we can see in here, and it's going to be difficult with the light, I want to look in there. Now, there's an allegation that these actually have primary extraction, and the bolt is here, tips down behind a locking shoulder in the receiver, and when the bolt comes back, there's a bit of dwell time, nothing happens. There's a little cam in there that lifts the back of the bolt out, and then it moves back. So you get right in there, you can just see that little cam. We can just see, I'll pull it back a bit. You can just see that little cam there that pops the bolt up. Now I've deliberately put the magazine in there so that the floor plate acts on the bolt, so you can see its movement much more clearly. But as I bring it back, you'll see the bolt lifts, and then when it starts to move backwards, it just starts moving backwards at basically the same speed as a carrier. If there's any sort of diagonal movement there, I mean there really isn't when there's the spring pressure on it there. So basically there's no way you could possibly have primary extraction in this, simply because there's nothing in the receiver that provides an angle surface against which the bolt could act as it's coming up. So, I need to put a bit of resistance on the bolt to simulate a sticky case. But it goes up and then hits the stop in the carrier, and then it comes straight back. It looks a bit deceptive if I haven't got the resistance on it because there's some play, but with the resistance on the bolt, it comes up and then it starts to move. There is actually no slow initial extraction, and trust me, I can feel this with my finger. We've got nothing, 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 everything. A little bit of trivia that's just been told to me is that these were made at Long Branch, like number 4 Mark 1 stars, and they carried over the serial number style. So this one is 8L for Long Branch, 2590. So there you go. Hope that was at least vaguely interesting. Thanks so much again to the Seaforth Islands of Calendar Museum for the use of their equipment and their facilities here. Thank you so much to Rob of British Muzzle Loaders, who's been my gracious host for the thick end of a week here. Thank you so much to patrons of my channel, and if you haven't subscribed to British Muzzle Loaders, also please consider doing so. Please consider supporting him on Patreon as well, and see you again sometime. Bye.